A woman pregnant with 1,000 children.
Was an ugly baby.
A shield that disappears when you try to use it. The frog was actually made by Loki.
Someone kissed a cow.
It's kind of a sad one.
Poseidon is the god of the ocean.
But then he decides that the voice must be a gift from the gods.
That's gonna be interesting.
Alright, everyone's finished. How are you feeling, Daniel? How are you feeling about your story?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Really?
Pretty good. Yeah, I
Okay.
think it came together pretty well. And I'm actually kind of proud of it. So
Really?
yes.
That's nice.
I'm looking forward to hearing everybody else's.
How about you, Sarah? How are you feeling?
I am very relieved it is over. And
Aw.
I just want to get it over.
It was a lot easier the first time we did this, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Lily! How do you feel about your story?
Tired.
Tired?
It's pretty funny though.
It's pretty funny?
Yeah.
We'll see about that. Just kidding.
Wait, give me the camera.
How do I feel about it?
How do you feel about your story?
I would like you to put that strap around your neck.
And how do you feel about your story?
I feel like I could have done better if I had more time, but
Same.
I'm glad that I got something down. For the longest time, I had nothing written. I kept rewriting my story, so I was I was a little disheartened about that. But I sat here and I watched Honeybell eat a peanut butter Kong, and it just rejuvenated me. So, all that to say, I'm feeling pretty solid. All right.
What?
Draw out a name.
Bethany?
All right. Who wants to go first?
I can.
All right.
All right.
You go first. Whose story did you get?
Yours.
Oh, yeet! All right. Go for
Let
it.
me read it all dramatic like.
Read it all dramatic like.
Alright. Xeronous the wolf pup. In the heavens it is assured that all gods will be beautiful, but for the mortals there is no such guarantee. A queen could not give birth. The king had no heir. The kingdom could not afford to lose the royal line. The king had heard that the goddess Venus could fix such things and sent the queen to her. When Venus heard the queen's plight, she granted them to have a child, but requested that the child be named after her. The queen hastily agreed. For such a small price it would be no issue. The queen returned to the king and had the child. When the child was born, it was a boy. A boy could not be called Venus, the king argued.
This is the only funny part, you guys.
A boy could not be called Venus, the king argued. The queen agreed, and they called the boy Xeronous. Venus was angered by the mortals' forgetfulness, but she was not cruel and only punished them by making their child ugly. When the king and queen found that their child had suddenly become horrendous, they were also enraged. The baby's eyes were too far apart, and his eyebrows were too far down, and his mouth was perpetually crooked. This was no way for a prince and future king to look. The king told the queen to go back to Venus and demand that she give them a better baby. The queen? What do you mean that was the only funny part? The queen traveled back and said this to Venus. Venus grew even more angry and regretted her decision to give the king and queen a child at all. But she did not show her anger. Instead, she told the queen she would fix it. She gave her a small cake and told the queen that it would cure the baby of his ugliness. Venus withheld the information that the cake was poisonous and would kill the baby. The queen took this back to the king and the child and gave it to the young prince. The poison took hold and the baby turned ashen white. The king and queen didn't know what to do. They called their best physicians, but they didn't know any cure either. Finally, the king extended a call for help to anyone who would take it. A demigod named Xeronous heard the plea.
Dang, he just went right over that.
He told them that he would save the child's life, but could only do so by making the child a wolf. The king and queen agreed, expecting the child wolf to know them and to somehow claim the kingdom one day. When Xeronous turned the child into a wolf pup, he seemed to regain his health and began jumping and running and panting. The king and queen were elated, but slowly they realized something was wrong. The wolf did not know them and tried to escape the palace. What is wrong with him? The king demanded. Kailosarte told him the wolf was no longer his child, but an animal. He must go into the wild as all animals do. The king and queen were saddened by this. They knew they were being punished for their selfish actions. They knew that the demigods spoke truthfully. They agreed to let the wolf pup go. But before they released him, the queen kissed the wolf on the head. The wolf squirmed out of her arms and ran into the wilderness, never to be seen again. The kingdom, which would have been saved for a small price, crumbled, forgotten in time without an heir forever.
I couldn't find anything good to do. Okay.
I really like it though.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was mine.
With
Actually, 2 of them were mine.
poisonous cupcake and kissing the wolf.
And
No,
mine was ugly
kissing the wolf was
baby.
mine.
Really?
Yes.
Mine was the world.
Mine was ugly baby.
What?
I know.
Wait.
I am so aware that was yours.
I know.
Are there 2 ugly babies?
That's why I was laughing at the beginning.
Because you got ugly baby?
A poisonous.
Haha, sucker. Is that what was so hard to put together? Because that was what gave me the problem, the stupid baby. I was so nervous about that because, like, it's like a sad story, and
I don't know how to explain it, but the idea of just letting an animal run free into the wild doesn't make it feel like that much of a tragedy.
Really?
It makes it feel like it's like it feels like it. Well, also I find it kind of cool when kingdoms crumble. I don't know why, but for those 2 reasons, it's kind of
Are you
like
videotaping this?
it's kind of like
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know. Okay, it's a weird phrase, but the phrase "refreshing tragedy" comes to my mind.
Okay, so I'm looking at this and I'm like, what the heck, how am I supposed to pronounce this? But then I remembered last time Daniel had a story where one of the names was literally A-E-I-O-U. That was how it was spelled. And I was like, A-U? A-E-I-O-U. Look at me, I'm the important, I'm the speaker. I-O!
Want to have dramatic reactions to this?
Have real reactions
Well,
for this.
dramatic reactions makes
You do you.
okay.
Irgy, the demigod of Zits.
It's
Oh my goodness.
What story is this?
Yes. I've been talking about this for a while.
Oh man. Here we go. Just start. You can't read ahead.
I'm sorry.
That's the cardinal sin of myth reading.
There are 2
Any kind of reading, Daniel.
I'm sorry, Sarah.
There's misspellings. I used autocorrect.
Just start going.
Irgy, the demigod of Zits, was cursed. Respect Irgy. Respect Irgy. Or he will come to you. Do you see these? You want to know how I got these scars? Alright. Irgy, the demigod of Zits, was cursed to hate Shut up! Was cursed to hate everyone when he gave one too many zits to a baby that was about to get christened. The baby. I'm sorry, it's spelled so
That's what I put it. I forgot.
The baby's face being so hideous that the Pope that Christed, that christened the baby, started crying. The event will forever be labeled as the time when the world's ugliest baby was christened. I'm sorry, you guys are laughing because of the baby, but I'm laughing because of the misspelling.
No,
Christed?
Keep going.
Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty. See, we both did. That's kind of weird. We both were like, who can fix this? The goddess of beauty. So we both chose different goddesses of
Yeah,
beauty.
Venus and Aphrodite.
Aphrodite, the goddess
I made
of
up my
beauty,
own.
was so disturbed by this that she cursed Irgy, the goddess of Zits, to hate everyone. Gosh, I feel like I've already been cursed with that.
Maybe you're Irgy.
Maybe you're the goddess.
Maybe I'm Irgy.
The goddess. Hang on, let me try.
Why would you do that to a baby?
No, I'm not the goddess of Zits. and thus Irgy would give Zits to anyone who crossed his path, even if they treated him with kindness. As a result,
That's actually horrible.
Irgy was disliked by all the gods. Can you imagine that? Like, hey Irgy, what's up? They walked out, everyone you met walked away with another Zit. They're like going to the council of the gods, like hiding their face, and they're like, oh, did you meet up with Irgy again? They're like, yeah. By the way, you need to plug this in, honey.
I know it. Back in
All right,
business.
and we're back. The
we
camera
go.
was overheating, so. Back to the exciting adventures of Irgy, the demigod of Zits. When,
No, the god. Wait, is it?
as a result, Irgy was quite disliked by all the gods. When Irgy's birthday came around, the gods gave him all of their cursed weapons in hopes that he would go to battle, draw his sword that would turn into a flower, or hold up his shield that disappeared when he tried to use it, and be struck down and die.
Gods don't die though.
He, however,
He's a demigod.
He was cursed to hate everyone, didn't receive anyone's gifts, and began to give everyone a pimple each second they left. Thus the gods
He said
decided
he totally left. Sorry.
It's just really hard to. Thus the gods decided to shun Irgy, hence very few mortals even know of Irgy's existence, and ones who do loathe his name. And here's some fun, interesting names. Irgy, Utfid, Neffleblum. There's no vowels in this word. Earth. Grez, Wesdwa, Heath, Joyhog.
You started reusing
None of
those names,
you.
Sarah. Those names are not new. Are you going back to her old writing or?
I just wrote all my name ideas.
Horrendous,
Oh, so the story's over?
quote unquote.
Yes,
names.
that was it.
Oh
Okay.
my gosh.
All the mortals learned to loathe his name. Yeah.
I'm
Alright.
starting to wonder if
Pause
I'm
the
the
video.
goddess of Zits. 'Cause I hate everyone.
Oh my gosh, what are these names? I'm not looking. I'm just looking at the red squiggly lines. Okay. At least with mine, I told it to ignore all misspellings. So okay.
Sorry.
Quilila. In the city of Dashka, there lived a man named Zenber and a woman named Quilila.
Pronounce it different every
Well,
time.
I figured out a good one. They were heartbroken, for they could have no children. Oh gosh.
Why is this a theme?
I-
What the heck?
that's-
Children and can't have them.
My own fertility goddess, though.
So every day they offered a cow as sacrifice on the altar of Lipich, the goddess of fertility. They offered a cow as sacrifice every day for 1,000 days. Who has that many cows? One day there appeared in their house a cow that was black as night and spoke to them, saying, I am Lipich, the goddess of fertility. For Lipich had been confined to the form of a cow, for she had angered the god of livestock. Now Lipich cursed Quilila, saying, since you have slain 1,000 of my brother and sisters upon the altar, and shall grant your wish in the measure you have earned. I know what this is. You shall conceive one child for every cow you slew. All at once! You and all of your children shall die, for you cannot carry 1,000 children. Then Zenber and Quilila were stricken with great pain. They had not known that Lipich had been confined to the form of a cow, but Lipich left before they could plead for mercy. So Zenber and Quilila went every day to the altar of Lipich and prayed that the goddess might change her mind, but received no answer. And Quilila became pregnant. And Quilila became pregnant, and within a few days she grew very sick, for she could not hold 1,000 children. In desperation, Zenwar and Quilila went to the altar of the miscellaneous and obscure gods, and offered up a sacrifice and prayer, in hope that someone might hear their cry. And indeed, they were heard by Shrincharge, the god of changing sizes, and shrink so large.
What the heck?
I can save your life, but I can change you into a size large enough to hold 1,000 children, on one condition. You must woo Lippich for me and convince her to marry me, for I am in love with her, but she pays me no attention. Zenbar and Quilila agreed to their proposal, so Shrinchenlarge turned Quilila into a giant, and she was able to
It's basically Shrink and Large.
1,000 children. And Zenbar and Quilila left the city of Eldashka and made a home out in the wilderness, for there was no room for 1,000 children and a giant mother in the city of Eldashka. Then Shrinchenlarge came to them and said, "Now it is time for you to fulfill the part of your bargain. Woo Lippich for me, that I may marry her." But Quilila said to Shrinchenlarge, "Give us but a few years, for I have a plan that will certainly change the heart of Lippich." And Shrinchenlarge agreed, so 7 years passed. And then Zenbar and Quilila helped their children gather 100,000 wild roses and gave a cluster of 100 roses to each child and went to find Lippich. They found the goddess, still in the form of a cow, grazing in the verdant fields north of Eldashka. And then Zenbar and Quilila sent their children unto Lippich one at a time, and each child went up to Lippich carrying 100 roses, and laid them in front of Lippich, saying, "A gift from the great and beautiful Shrinchenlarge, he who admires you." And after all 1,000 children had gone and laid the roses in front of Lippich, the goddess was deeply moved, for she realized these were the 1,000 children she had doomed to death. And Lippich said,
Aww.
"Where is Shrinchenlarge? I will speak to him." And then Zenbar and Quilila called for Shrinchenlarge, and he came to them to the field, and he approached Lippich. And Shrinchenlarge said to Lippich, "O Lippich, ever since I set eyes on thee, I have loved thee. Your bovine form masks not your beauty from me, for your heart I love, and inside of that cow I see the fair and magnificent heart of a goddess. So, with unsurpassable passion, I ask thee, wilt thou consent to marry me?" And Lippich cried tears of joy and said, "I will marry thee." And Shrinchenlarge leaned forward, and kissed the muzzle of Lippich. At that moment, Lippich turned back into the radiant form of a goddess, unsurpassed in beauty, for she could not remain a cow when Shrinchenlarge, for her largest love for her true form, was so overpowering. And so Shrinchenlarge and Lippich were wed, and they blessed the house of Zenbar and Quilila. And Zenbar and Quilila's children grew into a great people. Let's give a few generations of progress there. Huge head start. Building a new civilization out of their land in the wilderness. And when each new child grew to the age of 7, that child was made to kiss a cow, and their life would be greatly blessed.
What?
You do realize they all become 7 at the same time.
Each new child.
What do you call that? That's like
Each new child.
1,000. That's 500 twins.
So what were your props?
100,000 roses.
Oh, that's perfect.
Somebody kisses a cow, and a woman pregnant with 1,000 children.
Wait, you mean to tell me that there was 2 prompts about kissing a random animal?
Yes.
And there were 3
Which is-
prompts about babies, and 2 prompts about at least 1,000 of whatever. And
What the heck? How did this
An
happen?
ugly
Okay,
baby.
but can we all stop and recognize for a second the fact that Lilly put in a prompt, a woman pregnant with 1,000 children.
What the heck?
I had to figure out how to use that.
I thought that was you. I thought that was all you. I was like, wow, he came up with that?
I can't even comprehend.
You're just like writing it down like, I'm so glad I'm not gonna have to worry about this.
That's one of the great things is about not getting your own prompt is you can write whatever the heck you want and you don't have to pay for it.
Was a prompt, or did Sarah just come up with that?
I think she just came up with that part. Pronunciation. Like, I want to correct people on the pronunciation of my names, but I'm like, no, you cannot correct them. You
It's
have to-
literally the best part.
Exactly. Alright, here we go. Neffleblum and the Immortal Trees. Once there was a giant named Neffleblum. Unlike most of his towering kin, he actually had a brain. Well, most of one. Neffleblum was very gifted in the arts, especially the noble art of pottery. One day in early June, Neffleblum sat in his shop, discouraged. He hadn't had a worthy idea for a creation in months. He wished not to make the plain dime-a-dozen pots that so many of his colleagues created. No, Neffleblum wished to create the most creative creations a potter could create. In an attempt to clear his head, Neffleblum decided to go for a jog. Neffleblum set out down the road, jogging at a leisurely pace. He breathed deep the delicious morning air, already certain that it was restoring his creativity. The problem with this was that Neffleblum, being a giant, was incredibly heavy. So heavy, in fact, that every step he took shook the ground. He left great cracks in the earth as he pounded along, singing happily that his creative troubles were over.
Oh.
The shaking of the earth grew so great that it was felt even in the halls of the great gods halls of the gods,
Oh my.
perched in the high mountain of Olympus. Gods and goddesses looked about in confusion as their goblets of nectar wobbled and began to spill. Zeus shot to his golden feet, exclaiming in outrage as nectar spilled on his favorite tunic. "Who is responsible for this nonsense?" he thundered. After being informed that this nonsense was being caused by the giant Neffleblum, Zeus ordered that something be done to stop him. The gods put their royal heads together and came up with a plan. They would make him choke on a frog. This would surely stop him. Yup, that'll do it.
You know what? If I had to choose a way to assassinate a giant, it would definitely be a frog.
This would surely stop the blundering giant. The plan was approved, and a suitable frog was selected. I love the sudden twist.
They're not even gonna poison the frog, and they're just gonna hope that it chokes on it.
As Neffleblum went along his merry way, he opened his mouth to take a breath to continue his song. At that very moment, the fateful frog flew into his mouth like a whizzing arrow. Neffleblum collapsed to the ground with a great crash. Gagging and coughing, he lay there for a moment, bewildered. He took a moment to assess his injuries, and not noticing anything worse than a twisted ankle, he picked himself up and headed home, unaware that he had actually swallowed the frog. The frog was no ordinary frog. The frog sat in the depths of Loki's dungeons for 1,000 years.
Oh my!
Growing insane. and now as it sat in the bottom of the giant's stomach, it began to sing. It had a rather lovely singing voice for a frog, and at first, Neffleblum thought one of his neighbors was singing, but he soon discovered that no one else could hear the song, and in fact, it seemed to be coming from within himself. Neffleblum fell to his knees and thanked the gods for such a gift. He had had songs stuck in his head before, but never his stomach. This was a wonder he had never expected. Surely, he thought, this would cure his lack of creativity. Neffleblum set eagerly to work, listening to the frog's song for advice. He created all kinds of ridiculous things. A far-too-absorbing blanket, a cup holder that clips onto the table, and diet water.
Is this why you were looking up really stupid inventions the other day?
Diet water.
The other hour.
The crown jewel of his creative spree, however, was this: a sapling that cannot die. He fashioned the thing out of clay, and baked it in his hottest kiln. He then painted it to look exactly like any other sapling. It worked so well that Neffleblum decided to make 100 more, completely exhausting his supply of clay. He dropped the immortal saplings off at a local plant nursery in the middle of the night, and went his merry way, the frog still singing in his stomach. The nursery owner,
How did he sneak?
If he's literally...
He has a singing frog in his stomach.
How did he sneak into his nursery?
Only he can hear it in his stomach.
This thundering giant. Okay, never mind. The nursery owner, Digermick, had no idea where these mysterious trees had come from, but being a good businessman, knew that one must never turn down an opportunity to make some extra drachmas. He added the trees to his regular stock and sent them all. Now this would all have been well and good. However, the thing about saplings that cannot die is that they also cannot grow. In a few months, Digermick's customers became suspicious and confused when they realized their trees were not growing. They asked around and discovered that there were dozens of these trees, all having come from the same nursery. They declared the owner a witch and surrounded his house late one night, calling out to Hagamon, the goddess of plants. Oh, really? Hey, Hegemony, the goddess of plants, for judgment upon the man. Not wanting to disappoint her most faithful worshippers, Hegemony compiled and turned Digramic into a frog. The customers left, satisfied by the goddess's judgment, and returned home to burn their creepy trees. After the crowd had dispersed, Loki came along in the guise of a beggar and took Digramic, putting him in his pocket with a smile. Due to a recent job he'd done for Zeus, he'd been looking for a new frog. Great.
I feel so sorry for those frogs.
I like how we I like how Loki keeps getting brought into Greek mythology.
And you know
Yeah, we have to
I
blame
know.
some. We have to blame someone.
Loki.
So my prompts were a giant who loves pottery.
No, it was poetry. You got it wrong.
Are you serious?
Oh! Oh, that's so
When I heard that, I was like, oh, she got it wrong. But I was still amused by what you gave.
so funny.
no.
Changed the whole course of the... Alright, so...
That could have been very different.
Pottery.
I was actually going to write one of my prompts about clay, and I decided not to.
Man, what the heck is wrong with us? We keep like doing the same thing as everybody else.
Giant loves pottery.
We're too
poetry.
similar.
Sapling that doesn't die. Something that can't die. And someone swallows a frog.
That was mine. So the frog and the giant who...
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean a
Those are
sapling
mine.
that can't die? What the heck?
That was the one I spent the longest time debating on, and I was just like, I don't know, man.
It worked out. It was funny.
So how did you guys feel about the second one? We've actually done this before. How did you feel about the second one?
I feel like it went just as well as the first time, which is pretty good. So...
This is actually the first one that I didn't write the one for the last time, but this was fun. So I'll probably go back and write that old one.
It was definitely harder finding something to write, and I didn't write as much, but I had fun.
Hey, but you still got something out, right?
Yeah.
My turn.
I pick up. Like I said before, I had a much harder time figuring out what to do. And I think we had, even though we didn't have as much variance with like the prompts, like, somehow we all had very similar ideas. I felt like we had more variance with the stories, if that makes sense. Like instead of, well, no, I mean there were still similarities, but I mean mine was more sad than happy. I don't know what I'm saying. Yours is pretty sad in the first one.
Yours was sweet, the first one.
Yeah, well, I meant Daniel's was sad.
That's what I was saying.
Oh, Daniel's was sweet?
Daniel's was sweet.
Daniel's,
Daniel's first
there was
one
a
was
chief,
like a real
there was
epic.
a pyromaniac chief whose wife got turned into a turtle, and in the end, he also got turned into a turtle, and they swam away happily. I also just realized how sad that is for the chief, because he can't do the fire stuff anymore now that he's a turtle.
water!
That's so sad!
Well, he actually became the fiery turtle that revisited that village every year.
Right, you told me that.
Yeah.
He burns down the village. We should, if people who watch this want them, we can give you the other stories from the original challenge of this. Are you shaking your head, or are you just...
Nope, I'm just...
Alright, so if whoever is watching this wants those original stories, they are high quality, and I will give them to you if you want them. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you should give it a like and a subscribe. And we had so much fun doing this challenge. I highly recommend it. Gets the creative juices flowing if you know you're stuck in your writing and you can't figure out what to do and you just want to have a little fun. And I still have no idea how to end my videos, so...